What's up, Notjust developers, and welcome back to another tutorial. Today I prepared something very exciting, and today we're going to build a text-to-speech and a speech-to-text application with React Native and with the help of ElevenLabs models. I asked a couple of weeks ago what apps I should build next, and this application with speech-to-text was one of the most requested one. And I understand because there are so many use cases where you can integrate this and build amazing experiences. So what exactly we're going to do today? Well, the first use case we're going to cover is having a piece of text. We're going to transform it to an audio file, and this covers a lot of use cases if you want to build voice assistant or AI companions applications, or if you want to turn articles like emails, PDFs, tweets, or content to audio for content creation or for other purposes as well. You can build language learning applications, video editing with auto captions, and a lot more. And everything we're going to learn how to do today. The second use case is having a piece of audio, like a recording or even a video, which we can extract the audio from. We will extract the captions, the text out of it. For these speech-to-text use cases, you can build voice notes, you can transcribe audio and videos like calls, meetings, content, and so on. You can generate subtitles and captions for videos. You can build language learning applications, and definitely a lot more ideas that you can apply these learnings to. We're going to do everything by building, so this is going to be a step-by-step tutorial that is going to teach you the basics of how to set up this system, and then you can apply these learnings to the applications that you are building. The tech stack that we're going to use is React Native with Expo for the mobile application. We're going to use Expo Router for the navigation and Expo API routes for the backend to interact securely with the third-party AI providers such as ElevenLabs. This video is brought to you by Bright Data. Thank you very much, our friends from Bright Data, for making it possible. And if you don't know about Bright Data, you're missing out, because with Bright Data you get access to any data on the web, because they provide a lot of tools for scraping, all the way from do-it-yourself tools that would unlock any browser, any website, web data, even the ones that are preventing scraping solutions, to a lot of easier solutions that you can integrate to that you would interact like an API and get just the data that you need. If you need the data for your application or to train your AI models, this is the place to go, because Bright Data is built on top of a powerful proxy network with more than 150 million proxies, and that makes scaling scraping solutions super easy and efficient. Today, by the end of the video, I'm going to show you how we can implement, on top of everything that we're going to learn when it comes to text-to-speech and speech-to-text, I'm going to use the web scraper from Bright Data to scrape tweets. Then I'm going to send them to Bright Data. I'm going to use ElevenLabs to transform them to audio files, and this way we're going to be able to transform tweets to audio. With this approach, not only this is possible, Twitter is just one source where you can get data from. There are pre-built scrapers for any social medias that you can imagine, for Google News and a lot of other websites like Amazon, or you can even build your own scraper to get the data from, and then with some models you can turn them into audio and maybe create videos or transcriptions or powerful applications on top of that. So that's the plan. If you're ready, I'm ready. Let's get started. Before we begin, I just wanted to let you know that for all our projects, I'm preparing a step-by-step guide that you can get to help you follow along and also keep it forever for a reference whenever you need help, whenever you encounter the same situations. You have access to this guide to check and to follow like the snippets. Also, for this guide, you're gonna get the source code. So if you're interested, go to notjust.dev/projects/TTS for text-to-speech. You're gonna go on a web page like this, leave your email, and you're going to receive on your email a link to this guide. And yeah, I think with that said, we are ready to actually get started. The first step is obviously to set up a new Expo project, and I would like to jump right into that without wasting a lot of time. So I'm going to open a terminal. I'm not sure why it's still indexing, so let me check if I get it here. Yeah, perfect. I'm going to navigate to where I keep my projects, YouTube 2025. Let's do here. One second. 19 TTS. And once we're here, all we need to do is using the npx tool that you get by installing Node.js and using the create expo app tool, we can initialize an Expo application without a lot of headache and environment setup. I'm also going to do at latest to make sure I'm using the latest version of Create Expo app, and I'm going to select a template because by default, the template is a little bit like it has a lot of things, but I really like to start from blank and show you step by step how to install and set up everything. I think this makes it a little bit easier for you to understand where things are coming from. So just do dash template blank TypeScript, and then let's give our project a name. For example, text-to-speech. Let's press enter, and the Create Expo app will initialize a new project for us, and we're going to be ready to get started. Hello everyone who is joining us live. How are you doing, guys? If you're new to our channel, hello, my name is Vadim, and here on notjust.dev, our goal is to help developers build mobile applications with ease by doing this in a fun way, by building exciting applications. So if you're on your journey to learning React Native, or you want to build mobile applications, this is the place to be. And if that's you, make sure to hit that subscribe button to be notified whenever we do another video. We do that weekly, so you're gonna have a lot of exciting content coming your way. Thank you very much and welcome on board. Here is our project ready, and we can already open it up in our editor of choice. You can open it in Visual Studio Code or in any other editor of your choice. More recently, I'm using Cursor, so I'm going to open it with Cursor like this. I no longer need our terminal, and Cursor is very similar to Visual Studio Code because it's a fork of Visual Studio Code, but it adds some AI features on top of that. So that's why as you can see, it looks like Visual Studio Code. I'm gonna go ahead and do new terminal, and I want to start the development server and run the application right away so we see what we are working with. I'm going to do npm start, and that will start the Metro server that is bundling our JavaScript code. And from there, we need to run this application somewhere. I will press I to open it on iOS simulator, but for iOS simulator and Android emulator, you need additional setup like Xcode for iOS and Android Studio for Android. If you don't have that yet, that's not a problem, because the easiest way to run a new application would be to download the Expo Go application on Android or iOS. It's available on the market, and then you simply scan this QR code. If you lost the QR code through this terminal, just press C to clear all the logs, and you're going to see it at the top. Perfect. Now that our application is running, it's running here in Expo Go application. On my simulator, we see the open app.tsx to start working. App.tsx is this file, and currently it's the entry point of our application. It's the first file that is loaded. If you go ahead and change something here to hello, you're going to see it auto reload. hot reload, and the changes are applied instantly, which offers like a really nice experience to develop applications with React Native. All right, before we move on, we're going to first install and set up Expo Router. In the guide, go ahead and open the Expo Router installation. And if you're new to this, Expo Router is a file-based navigation system built on top of React Navigation. React Navigation is the most used navigation library for React Native. And with Expo Router, we simply create files and folders, and Expo Router automatically sets the screens and all the configurations for us. So it's really an easy way to set up everything and to structure our screens, our application. And because it's built on top of React Navigation, you can also reuse all the knowledge that you already have from React Navigation, such as configuring headers, creating buttons, adjusting the styles of your stacks or bottom tab navigations, and so on. Let's go ahead and install Expo Router in our project if we don't have that already. If you started with another template, you might already have Expo Router. But I'm going to go to manual installation. I'm going to start by installing the dependencies. I'm going to copy this one from here. And back in my project, I'm going to open a terminal. For now, I think it's safe to stop the development server by pressing Ctrl+C. And I'm going to paste here the npx expo install command to install all the dependencies of Expo Router. Meanwhile, I'm going to go back, and for the second step, we need to update the entry point. We need to point our application to start loading with Expo Router. So in the package.json, the main will become Expo Router/entry. So package.json main, no longer index.tsx, but Expo Router entry. That's at this moment, like because we replace this index with Expo Router, it is safe to remove this index file from here because it's no longer used. It was used previously. Okay, let's continue our configuration. One more thing is we need to define the schema of our application, and that is used for deep linking. So what we have to do is go into app.json, where we have configurations about our application, such as a name, and somewhere here add the scheme, which in my case is going to be text-to-speech. Again, this is used for deep linking to be able to open our applications with a link. And Expo Router is handling that for us. That's why we need to set it up. You can also install the React Native Web and React DOM to make your application run on web as well. I'm not going to do that, but it's as easy as installing these commands. And in babel.config, I already have this one. This one is by default. So again, I'm not going to do anything there. Now it's time. That's it with the configuration. We can go ahead and do npm start again. But this time, let's do a -- clear to clear the metro cache, to clear the cache, because we changed like the configuration and it's better to do that. Let's do I to open it on iOS. And if everything is good, I'm going to reload the application by double pressing R, being focused on my emulator. And we see the welcome screen from Expo. We see this welcome screen when we didn't configure any screens. How can we configure screens? Well, Expo Router is looking for a directory called up and is going to transform the files in that directory into screens. That we don't have yet that folder. You can create it in the root, or as I like to do it, I like to create a source folder as RC, and inside the source folder, I like to create another folder called up. There, I can simply drag and drop the existing app.tsx and simply rename from app.tsx to index. Index means the home screen. Basically, when we open the application and go to the slash, similar to how we go on a slash on web, it's going to open the index from app folder. Now, if I'm going to reload the application, here we have it. We have the hello coming from the index. And because Expo Router is handling this status bar, it's safe to remove it from here And as you can see, it's going to automatically be follow the theme of your application. And in our app.json, the user interface is set to light. Not sure if it's gonna change. Probably, yeah, this can be auto, but I'm not gonna cover that now. Okay, perfect. So we have our application with the first screen. Later, the different screens are going to be different files. Before we move on, there is one more important file that I need to explain you from the Expo router concept, and that is the underscore layout file. Let's create it. Underscore layout dot tsx, and let's export default function layout, and let's start with returning null. If I return null, we lost everything because nothing is rendered. Well, what's up with this layout? This is the file that is going to wrap around all our screens, and it's used for shared UI. Think about a bottom tab navigation. The bottom tabs is a shared component between every screen, because you might want to animate the transition between the screen, but you want to keep that bottom tab always in place. So that part of the bottom tabs is going to go into the layout because it's wrapping around the screen itself. And it can be used for shared UI and also for shared logic, like providing a global context and things like that. It works similar to how the children property works, where Expo router is going to first render the layout, and then the layout should render the screen itself. Because we return null here, we lost everything because the layout is the one who is rendering the screens. If you simply render a slot here, imported from Expo router, this slot is basically the same as rendering the children. So we take everything, we take the screen that should be rendered and we render it here. However, we can also render a stack, and that will transform this into a stack navigation, and we have already headers. Or we can transform it into a tabs by simply importing tabs from Expo router and rendering them here. Boom, we have a new tab at the bottom. That's perfect, that's exactly what we needed. And by default, it's going to take default configurations, for example, the name, the icon, and so on. But if we, instead of rendering tabs as a self-closing tag, if instead of that we open it up like this, by opening the tabs and then closing the tabs, and between them rendering tabs.screen, so we render tabs.screen inside the tabs, we can target different screens with a name. For example, the name of a file is index. That's why we're going to use index here, targeting that one. And then with simple options, we can adjust, for example, the title to home, or in our case, the index is going to be, let's say, text-to-speech. And the same way, we can duplicate this index file, and right away you see another tab there. That's how simple it is to add a new screen. And I'm going to rename it to speech to text. So it has speech to text. Back in the index, back in the layout, I will render or duplicate this tab screen, targeting the second screen with this name. So it's based on the file name. I'm going to target this speech to text screen, and I'm going to say that this file has a title speech to text. And just like that, we have text to speech as the index, as the first tab here, and speech to text as the second one, and we can switch between them and look at the title, it changes, and that's it. That's how easy it is to create screens, put them into different navigators, adjust the navigators, and so on. There is also a possibility to adjust the tab bar icon. So I'm going to go to Expo Vector Icons, And let's do microphone for the speech to text, right? Maybe, yeah, we can go with this one, and I will import this font awesome in my layout. And I'm going to, would be the microphone for speech to text. For speech to text and the options, I can say, hey, for the tab bar icon, please render this font awesome icon. The name of that icon is microphone. Name, microphone. There it is, we have a microphone. Tab bar icon also sends us the size and the color, which is dynamic, and we can send this size to the icon and color as well. And as you can see, the size is adjusted and handled in the tabs layer, and the color is as well changing depending on if we're on that tab or not. I'm going to do the same tab bar icon for the first screen, text to speech, and that one, text to speech, audio. Yeah, maybe this one. Is it font awesome 5? No, it's just font awesome. So I'm going to import another font family, font awesome 5. And I'm going to say this is the name file audio. That's it. Here is text to speech. This is speech to text. Perfect. Now we have our configuration set, and I can go ahead and do git add, git commit, install Expo router, and configure the bottom tabs. Okay, perfect. Now we are ready to start working on the text-to-speech functionality. Hello, Camogello. Hello, let me bring it here. Hello, Ishan. Hello, Metin. How are you? Is ElevenLabs free? No, ElevenLabs is not free, as it is usually with these AI models providers, but it has free credits. Yeah, I'm going to check it in a second. If it has free credits, so I've been playing with it for free. Nancy saying, when I watch a tutorial, it feels like, yeah, I got it, but when I try to implement things, I get stuck like I know nothing. That's why my recommendation is to build along. Don't just watch a tutorial, but try to implement that yourself. And it's okay if you encounter issues and problems. That's part of the journey. That's what every developer is going through. But it's a moment for you to learn and to apply these skills of problem solving, of debugging, of understanding why and how things work. And when you go through this experience, that's when you make the topic or the concepts that you're learning really stick. So it's very important to apply everything that you're watching here, not just watch it like a Netflix show. Perfect. Someone is texting, everything good. Let me just check. Okay. Right, let's go ahead and start working on our, where is it? This is the guide, on the text-to-speech. I'm going to start with building a very simple UI. Then we're going to get into the API routes and learn how to build backends with Expo router. And then we're going to integrate ElevenLabs, and then we're going to play the audio, the generated audio file. So for the text-to-speech, which is going to be in our index file, I'm going to go ahead and start with rendering text input imported from React Native text input, and I'm going to render it here, where the user will be able to write something. At the moment, it doesn't display, we cannot see anything, but if I will provide a placeholder like enter text, we're going to see it right away here. I think I'm going to remove the text at the top, and I'm going to give here styles.input, and inside the style sheet here at the bottom, I'm going to do input. And let's go ahead and say, first of all, I want a border width 1, a border color very light gray, maybe even Gainsborough, I think that's an even lighter gray. And we can do some padding definitely to give it some space, and border radius, because why not? Perfect. I'm going to go in this container, and I'm going to remove the align items and the justify content, because I want to start from the top. I'm going to add some padding on the container itself to give it some space. I think that looks good. For the input, I would like to make it a little bit larger. For that, I'm going to say, first of all, that this text input can be can be multi-line, so that when we write long text, it doesn't go off the screen, but it goes from a new line. And at the same time, I will say that the minimum height of this input is going to be 150 maybe, something like that. So if I come back, enter text, perfect. Below, I'm going to render a button. Let's do that with a pressable component. A pressable is a normal view that has also press events, and it's a component imported from React Native. Inside the pressable, I will render a text that will say convert to audio. Let's take this button. It automatically added styles.button, and I will add here the button styles. For example, background color, maybe royal blue. Padding 10, border radius 10, margin top I don't want margin top, because the spacing between items, I like to handle it on the container with a gap property, saying that, hey, all the items inside this container should have a gap of 10 pixels between them. That's good. On the button, I like to do align item center to center the items. And I can also give here a button text with a color white and maybe a font weight bold, and apply this button text style on the text component here. Yeah, that's good. Maybe bold is too much, semi-bold can be better. Or 600, yeah, 600. Okay, padding 15. 20. Oh, 15 is good. Nice. Okay, we have it. What's next? Well, next is we need a way to keep track of what the user is writing here, because when we press convert audio, we're going to need to send this information to the server. For that, we need a state, and a state is defined with useStateHook, and a state is a piece of data that will update our UI when changing it. So in our case, this text and set text is our state. The first value is the value of our state. The second one is the way how we update it, and also in the same way tell React to re-render the UIs. By defining this state, next step is to assign it to the text input in two ways. The first one is the value of a text input is always going to be the value of our state. And the second one is updating it. When the text input changes the text, we want to set it in state like this. So now if I write something, the text value is going to be there. And I can show you by adding here a function handle convert. It's going to be an arrow function that will do console log text and maybe even do set text to empty string to reset it. And if I call this handle convert on when we press on this pressable with on press equal handle convert, you're going to see if I open the logs and go back to where my terminal is, and again, press C to clear everything. If I press convert now, we're going to see that the value from the text input is here, and now it actually disappeared because we are resetting it after we press handle convert. Perfect. So that is our basic UI. And we can go ahead and do git status, git add, git commit -m, text to speech basic UI. Nice. The next step is going to be our API route. Why do we need an API route and what is an API route? Expo Router introduced API routes, and this is a way for us to run backend logic and write the code inside our React Native application. Don't get confused that we are writing this backend logic inside the React Native application, because the API routes, the code for that, is never going to be included in your client-side application. That code is only going to run on a backend, on a server. So the benefit is that we write the code in the same place, but then when we build, the part related to the application is going to be bundled into the Android or iOS app or even the web application. But the part that contains the server, like the API routes, is going to be bundled separately, and we can host it separately on a server. But yeah, that's like the important thing to understand. The API routes are code that is going to run on a server, and because it's going to run on a server in a backend environment, that's going to allow us to use secret keys and access AI models like OpenAI or ElevenLabs without us exposing the private key. That's very important because there are a lot of applications out there that simply call these APIs from the client-side application, which means that they are exposing the private key, and with simple techniques you can get it out of that application if you know what you're doing. So private keys that are not meant to be shared, because if someone finds your OpenAI key or ElevenLabs key, they can use it for their own purposes, or to even run like some heavy stuff there. So that's why we need a backend environment where we can store and use securely private keys. And then from our application, we just call that backend environment, and we can add here like different mechanisms to protect these calls through authentication, authorization, making sure maybe the user is subscribed or not, like a pro user. Like there is a lot of ways we can limit who has access to that. But we as developers have this, the possibility to control this. So that's why we need a backend in this case, because we are going to use ElevenLabs in the next step, and ElevenLabs gives us a private key that we need to store securely. In the past, we could build a separate backend with Node.js and then interact from our application with that backend. Now it's also possible to do that, but there is also this possibility to use the API routes, which is exactly built for that, like to run on the server. And it's nice because in these use cases, you're going to see that our backend is going to be super thin. Like it's going to be a couple of API calls, like 2 raw files, each of like 50 lines of code or maybe even less. And it's very useful or handy to have everything together instead of having 2 or 3 separate projects. So how do they work? Well, let's go ahead in the Expo Router here. Let's do Expo API or API routes. I'm going to open this API routes and monitoring API routes. No, maybe I'm going to search here Expo API routes. So Expo router enables you to write secure server code for all platforms right in your app directory. To do that, all we have to do is in our app directory, create a file and have this plus API suffix. Let's do that. You can create it anywhere, but I will group them together into a folder called API. Now inside this API, we can create a text-to-speech. Or maybe let's simplify it and do TTS for text to speech. Then we need this plus API to make it an API route, .ts. I do .ts and not tsx, which is not like a huge difference, but we need tsx when we are rendering GSX code, like when we are rendering these components. In our API route, we're not going to render anything. That's why I have ts here. But again, this is like a minor thing, and even if you call it TSX, like nothing is going to break. Everything is going to be good. Now, what we need to do is we need to export a function from here with a special name, for example, get. Let's copy this code from here and export it from our TTS plus API. There is one more step that we need to do. In our app.json, if I'm not mistaken, in app.json for the web, we need to say output server. So app.json web, we need to say output is a server, because the API routes are bundled together with the web code. And if we say server, it's going to run on the server, making them available for us. That's it. We just need to go ahead in our terminal. Maybe I'm going to stop the server and run it again with expo npm start. And you're going to see that our metro is showing us here, maybe not here, but a bit up. Where is it? Well, I don't see it right now, but if I'm going to go in my browser and say localhost /3000 port, then /API/TTS, this site can be reached. What did I forget to do? Server, API, TTS. One second, I forgot to do something, and let me just double check that. Oh, it should be 8081, not 3000. It should be 80, come on, 8081/API/TTS. And as you can see, we get back the hello world, as a normal API will send, like a JSON, because that's what we have here in our API route. And that's how easy it is. Here in development, our API routes are bundled and run together with the Metro server. It's run by the Metro server. In production, it's going to look a little bit different, because Again, like these are going to be bundled in the web application and deployed, but with EAS hosting, which maybe I'm going to be able to show you by the end, it's going to be super easy, like one command, and we have them available and hosted for production use. But for now, that's good. And we see that if we send this request localhost to 8081/API/TTS, we're going to get back, we're going to run and get back this JSON from here. And we can do the same from our client-side code. So back in the index, when we press this handle convert, we are going to make this function async, and we can send the same request using the fetch API. So if I do fetch localhost 8081/API/TTS, and I think I'm going to have the HTTP as well. And then if I say, hey, the data is equal to await response.json, to take the JSON data of that response, and then we console log. Let's see what is going to happen if now I press this button. Nothing. Why? Handle convert, response, reload. It crashed. That's part of a process. Let's try again. Okay, good. Now if I press convert to audio, we see response data, hello world. So now from our client side, we sent a request, we got back the result. This code was of that API route was run on the server, and we have the result here in the client side. I'm going to show you one more thing because with Expo Router, we can also omit this part from here. I'm going to actually cut it. And if I have just this, it's not going to work by default. Actually, it's working. In production, it's not going to work. Probably now it's automatically looking at the local host. But what you have to do is, as it's mentioned here in the documentation, in app.json for the plugins Expo Router, we need to specify the origin, and that way we are pointing all the API requests to our website, for example. For example, in app.json for the plugins Expo Router, what we have to do here is pay attention. Like plugins is an array. Expo Router needs to also be put it into an array where the first is the name and the second is going to be the configuration. And here we can specify the origin, which currently is localhost, but in future you can change it to the to your production URL where you host it. And again, by the end, I'm going to show you how to host it with EAS as well. Now, if I restart the server and do reload, and if I press convert audio, we see the response again. And now it's super simple. Like we send a fetch request to /API TTS, like very clean. We can also send data there, and we can also change the method. For example, GET requests are usually meant for things that are not changing anything, like just getting a post or reading some data. What I want to do is I want to change it to a post request because we are going to have to send a little bit more data, and where the purpose of this TTS API is to transform text to audio. So there is some kind of operation, there is some kind of things happening. So that's why it makes more sense to have it as a post. Back in our client side in the index where we send this request, we can say that this fetch is going to have a method post. And when you have a post request, you can also send a body, and usually we stringify the body into JSON format. And here we can provide different things that we want to send, such as that text. So now we are actually sending data to the server, like the text that the user wrote here. And back in our API route, we can get access to it through request.body. And if I do console log text and I will say on the server, let's see what's going to happen. If I reload, and if I'm going to say hello, convert, we're going to see on the server text undefined. Well, let me double check how we get the access to the body. Come on, request. Request.json. Okay, so first we're going to have to get the body by doing await request.json. This function is going to become async, so it's going to be export async function. And now we take the text from this body like this, or maybe we can right away destructure it here like this. Now, if I'm going to do that or say hello, we're going to see on the server, we have access to the data that has been sent from the body when we send the request to our server. And here we decoded it, request.json, and we have access to it. So we can now use AI models to convert text to audio. You can also do here checks, like if text is not defined, if we didn't send any text or the text is empty, let's return the response.json with an error saying text is required. And you can also say the status code is 400, giving a little bit more information to your front end. This is not required, but it's good to have here, especially if you're preparing this to use it in production. So it's going to be more robust. You're not going to waste calls to your AI model if the text was not provided. For example, now, if I'm going to just press convert audio, it's going to have response data, error, text is required, because it's empty. And if I'm going to send something, it's going to see response data, hello world, because it passed the check and got here to the response.json hello world. Perfect. So now we have the basic structure, git status, for our backend that is ready to use with ElevenLabs, with any AI models, for example. Git commit, prepare API route for that text to speech. Let me know if you have any questions so far. If not, we can continue, and our next step in the process is the ElevenLabs integration. For that, go ahead and open ElevenLabs.io. This is their homepage. Come on. This is not the only model for text-to-speech, because OpenAI also has it, but I saw a lot of people using it, so I said, like, let me give it a try. So this is also a way for me to experiment with different models, but obviously you can do the same with other models as well, so feel free. Like the process is going to be more or less similar in terms of the request and interactions with API. whether you're using OpenAI models, ElevenLabs, or any other AI model. What we need here is an account. Sign up. I think I already signed up. So let me log in. I'm trying to remember my credentials. Okay, here it is after I signed up. And what will we need also is the documentation. The documentation from maybe products. Let's do speech to text. We need text to speech, right? This is the playground. And I'm going to go to documentation. So let's go ahead and check the quick start. Well, first of all, we need the API key from ElevenLabs. And for that, we're going to go in our console. And let's find the API keys. I'm going to press on my account here and I see API keys. And as you can see, you have credits to play and test around with. This is by default. Let's go ahead and on the API keys, create a new one. Let's do create and copy it because we're going to need it in a second. Well, let's actually not forget and go right away in our application, create a new file in the root folder and call it .env. That's where we will keep the environment variables. I'm going to paste my key here. I'm going to go back to the documentation to double check the name of that key. And the name of that key is ElevenLabs_API_key. So I'm going to put it in front of this with equal sign. So that's our API key in .env. And while we're still here, it's good to add the .env file to your .gitignore file in order not to commit it to Git to your Git repository. Because in the .env, usually you have secret keys. Expo handles well environment variables, and by default, environment variables are not going to be exposed to your client-side code. If you need some public keys to be exposed in the API code, you're going to prefix them with expo_public. Like for example, API URL equal, I don't know, my website.com. So in this environment, this is important to understand because the .env file is where we're going to store both public and secret keys or values, environment variables. And it's important to understand if we have Expo public API, not API, this is like, let's just do name. If it starts with expo_public, these values will be accessible in the client-side code, in the mobile applications, and they will be bundled there. So these are good for things that should not be secret, for public keys, for anonymous keys, for things like that. If, however, you have an environment variable that do not start with Expo public, that key is not going to be bundled with your client-side code, meaning Android application, iOS application, web client, like that runs on the browser, because we can do that as well. However, they are going to be accessible in your server-side environment, in your API routes, for example, the one TTS plus API. So here we have access to all the environment variables. Perfect. Now the next step is to install the SDK. We're going to the next step. We configured everything with API keys. I'm going to switch to TypeScript here. And what we need to do is to install ElevenLabs. So I'm going to open a terminal. I'm going to do npm install ElevenLabs. That's done. Next step is to make your first request. we need to import ElevenLabs client from ElevenLabs. So in our source app API TTS plus API, where we have our post endpoint, we're going to import the ElevenLabs client from ElevenLabs. We're going to create this client, const client new ElevenLabs client. And here it does text to speech, convert, text, and so on. Let's just copy this one from here. And let's do it inside our post request when the user wants, when our application sends this request and wants to convert the text. So with a client, we are using text to speech .convert. This is the ID of a voice. This is the text that we want to transform, so I can replace it with a dynamic text value that we received through the request. And because it has the same name, I can simplify it to this. This is a model that it's using and the output format. Now we get the audio file back. Here it does audio.play. That works, I think, in browsers, but in our case, it's not going to work. What we will have to do with audio here is to do some modification and then send it back through the response. And what we are going to do is, because this audio is going to be a stream, meaning that the API is going to stream data back to us as it generates stuff. Streaming is something usual with AI, where the data is sent to us as soon as it is available. It doesn't wait to generate the whole thing and gives it to us. In our case, I'm not going to implement streaming from our backend back to our client. What I'm going to do is I'm going to wait and collect the whole response here and then send it to our back to our client. All of this streaming stuff, like I never remember the syntax. So let me quickly open my recent project. Yeah, this is the part. And what I'm going to do, wait a second, new window. Here. So we are here, we have an audio file, and what we will do is I'm going to paste this code here and explain it to you step by step. So what we are doing, as I said, like this audio is gonna go here. So as I said, this audio is a stream. What I'm going to do is I'm going to wait for all the pieces from that stream to come, and I'm going to collect them into an array. Meaning that I'm going to wait until the ElevenLabs has sent all the pieces of that file. I'm going to collect them into the chunks, and then with buffer, I'm going to convert it to an audio buffer. This audio buffer, I'm going to send as a response, and I'm going to set the content type to audio here. Just double check if we don't need the buffer. No, we don't. All good. And don't worry, I'm going to put in a second, like after I test and see everything is working, I'm going to put this code in the guide so you have a very easy copy pastable code. Because again, like you don't have to remember all of these small pieces, but it's good to understand how it works. So let's see what's going to happen now if I'm going to check the logs, restart the server with npm start. And if I'm going to do hello world, convert, we see something is running on the server when we see this lambda function. And we kind of got something back, but we don't see anything because it's probably not a JSON, right? That means that handle convert response. Yeah, it's not going to be a JSON here. What can we do? Yeah, like testing it is a little bit harder, like with mobile, because we have to send like this data back on mobile, and here we have to again do some conversion, and then we're going to be able to play it. Let me just double check that part on the front end. Okay, this is also response. Okay, we take the array buffer from the response. We transform it to an array, and we are writing it to the file system. And only after writing it to the file system, we're going to have a local URI that we can play. Again, let's go ahead and copy this part from here. This part from here. Maybe with the response.ok as well to our handle convert. Because again, as I said, we're no longer going to have a JSON response. This is going to be a binary response with some binary data. Let's check response to make sure that that response is okay, meaning it's 200, it's not like an error or something. Then we are going to transform or get the array buffer from that response and transform it to an array. After that, we need the file system to write that to a file so that later we can cache it and play it locally. File system, for that we need expo file system. Let's go ahead and open the documentation. And let's start by installing the file system in our project. Expo file system gives us access to, as you can guess, the file system so that we can write and read files to two different directories. One is like a temporary directory, like a cache, and another one is a long-lived like document directory. So let's go ahead after installing and import everything as file system from Expo file system. And we are going to set a file URI, file system document directory. We need to give it a name. I think I will give it as a new date. Now let's do to ISO string, something like that. You can generate the names with IDs or with proper names, but I'm going to just say that the name of that file is going to be a new date. So where we are storing it in the file system, in the document directory, that's what I'm saying. This file system has cache directory, and this cache directory is going to be emptied from time to time, but it has documents directory, and that's where we store things that we don't want to lose. We give it a name and we say that the extension is mp3. Then we write the string to this file URI with a buffer from that array, transcode it to base 64, and we specify the encoding. Again, you don't have to remember everything. I don't, and I think I'm fine. I will always find what I need to, what I'm looking for. Okay, let's see if it's going to work. If I'm going to do console log audio save to file URI, what's going to happen? If I'm going to go here and say hello world, convert audio, wait a bit, anything happening? It doesn't happen anything. Let me do a reload. Hello world, convert. Is it working? I think it would be smart to also put everything here on the backend into a try catch, because maybe we don't have API, maybe the ElevenLabs fails to convert it or something like that. I'm gonna start with try here, and I'm going to end it at the end and say catch error. And if the error happened, I'm going to first of all console log it, and I'm going to also send it as a response.json, where I'm going to say error failed to generate audio. And we can also do status 500, meaning something happened on the server. I don't know what. So if I'm going to restart the server now and restart the application now, come on. Is ElevenLabs free? No, it's not free, but they offer like free credits when you sign up, so you can test it. So let's try again. Hello world, convert, bundled. Something is not working properly, and I don't know where, because I don't see logs, I don't see errors. This is the most interesting part. Post, let's see. There is console error here, so I don't think it's going there. Where can the problem be? Text. Oh, wait. Here. Let me just double check something. Convert as stream. I am calling convert, but I think I wanted convert as stream. I wanted ElevenLabs to stream it here. That was the problem. Because without that, maybe we didn't even have to do this part. But with this approach, like maybe later you can implement streaming down to your application as well. So now if I do it again, hello. It's very interesting that it doesn't throw the error. Bundled. Let's do console, generating audio. Hello, Shams. Generating audio. going to do it even like this to show the chunks, like if I'm getting something back. Yeah, it gets things back. Then it stops here. Concatenating chunks. Done. Did you set up ElevenLabs by adding API key? Yeah. Concatenating chunks done. New response. I think everything is good here. Maybe it's on the client side where it stops. Maybe it's here. Console log. Let's do parsing response. And I will clean up something on the backend because I see that it's working okay there on the backend. And yeah, as you can see, the problem looks like it's here with response.ok, failed to fetch audio. Is it this one? For some reason, this response is not coming in. Hello, convert. Response. Parsing response. So now it got here. Let's try to do the same here with try catch, because until here everything is good, but maybe here things can start breaking. Write a string catch error console log failed to save the generated audio file. We can even do error as well. Fail to save generated reference property buffer doesn't exist. Yeah, that's what I was expecting. I'm using here I'm using somewhere this buffer, and I just need to install it. I forgot, and that's what's causing the error. So if I do npm install buffer, and simply import it at the top here in my client side, because the buffer exists on the server side, but it doesn't exist by default on the client side. Now it should work. So now if I'm going to do hello, convert, parsing an audio file saved to this file, and I think I even can listen to it.
Hello. Hello.
If I click, like, it opens. The file lives on the device somewhere on the storage, but the good thing is that if I just click, for some reason it works and it plays it automatically. So yeah, the problem for me was that buffer that I'm using here was not installed, and that was the problem. But now we added a little bit of try catch, which is not bad. That's perfect. I'm going to remove some of these console logs to keep it cleaner. And I'm going to provide these functions for you in the guide so that you can copy paste, not to worry about all of this audio conversion. Because right now, what we should do is we have this audio file saved in the storage. It's time to play it. Let me go ahead and do a git add git commit -m generate audio files with ElevenLabs and save them to file system. We generate on the server, we send it back to our client, and on the client on the mobile, we save it to the file system. Now we're going to have that local URI, which we can set it in state audio file URI, set audio file URI. Let's do a use state. And once we in the handle convert, we do await file system in if everything is okay, we're going to set the file URI with this URI that we set. So this is the local URI to that audio file. And what we can do later is we're going to go here and say, hey, if there is a local audio file URI, if it exists, then render the following things. For example, render a pressable, like a button that will say play. And the on press is not going to have anything for now. But it's not going to work yet because we do not have an audio file, an audio player. Like we do not have yet the ability to play audio files. For that to happen, we need an extra library. And we're going to use the new library from Expo called Expo Audio. In the past, the audio was managed through Expo AV. Now, this is the new way of managing and handling audio. It's a separate library, separate from video. It's specifically for handling audio files, and it also supports recording as well. So let's install npx expo audio in our project. Hello, Devin. In the configuration app.config, we can set the microphone permission, and let's do that because this is, even though it's not required for development, if you want to go to production, this is going to be important. So I'm going to copy that, and in app.json, where we have plugins, Expo Audio, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to put it into an array, and the second one is configuration files, and I'm going to set microphone permissions, allow to access your microphone to record audio, something like that. We're going to need that a bit later. Now we are ready to use it. What do we need? We need use audio player from Expo Audio. I'm going to take it at the top. Or do you want me to do it in a separate file? Let's do it in a separate file. You know what? Because I want to separate like generating audio and playing it. I want to separate the logic so it's going to be less confusing for you. For that reason, in the source, I'm going to create a new folder called components. And in the components, I'm going to do audio player.tsx. Here, let's do export default function audio player, return view. Let's do a text that will simply say audio player just for us to see it. And this audio player is also going to have some properties. So I'm going to define the audio player props type, and I'm going to say URI string. Now I'm going to destructure this URI. I'm going to say that this properties is of this type. And I can also say player URI. Cool. Back in our app index, let's go ahead and at the top, let's do import audio player from components audio player. And let's render it instead of this view. I'm going to remove and I'm going to say if there is an audio file, render the player to play it and send the URI there. And the URI is going to be the one that is coming from state, the one that after receiving it from our backend from ElevenLabs, we are setting it in state and we are going to have access to it here. So if I'm going to do hello here and do convert audio, in a second I'm going to see the audio player here with a link that needs to play. Let's go in audio player and focus on this right now. Because we have a URI, it's time for us to play it. For that, we're going to need the use audio player from Expo audio. We're going to define create that player using this hook. And we need to send here what file you can send, like a local file, or you can send a URI as well. And we're going to send the URI that we received here. Now, instead of this text, we can have a play text. And if I would do on press here and say player.play, maybe I'm going to have a pause text as well. I'm going to fix the UI in a second, but I just want to make sure that it works. So I have two texts, play and pause. If I do play, I see calling the play function failed because what? Native shared object, unable to find the native shared object with this player. It failed to create that player. Let me just double check something. Maybe I just have to restart the server because we installed a new library like Expo Audio. Let's double check by simply restarting. Oh, you attempted to import a Node standard library called Buffer. It failed because the React Native does not include these standard libraries. Not sure. Yeah, this is an error that is happening like from Expo SDK 53. Maybe I'm doing something wrong, but I know that it's happening like in other cases as well where it's not supposed to happen. I was building like an app yesterday and I had the same issue. And if I remember correctly, maybe it was a Supabase library. There is a workaround. Shared by Brent. Here it is. So Brent shared the solution or the workaround for this error. The error is the same, even though it's coming from a different because it's different, like a different library. But what we need to do is a stable enable package export. So for that, we need to do that on the metroconfig.js library. I mean, you do that only if you have the same error as me. But at the moment, we do not have a metro file. Well, Expo is trying to hide or like in a way hide these files if we do not need them so that our project is cleaner. However, by running npx expo customize, we can choose what file do we want to customize. I'm going to go down to Metro. I'm going to press space to enable it with a tick. I'm going to press enter. This creates this Metro config here. And now I can apply this config.resolver.unstable package exports false. So if I do here like that and go back to restart the server, and now we need the -- clear to clear the Metro configuration. And if I do reload, Do I have the same problem? I think is that it was working for me. In our cases. Is it? Yeah, I think I messed up when installing the buffer library. I did it with capital. So let me try to remove it from here and install it correctly. npm install buffer with lowercase. Yeah, now it has a proper version. Let's start the server again. Reload. Yeah, everything is good now. And maybe we just didn't even need the metro config. Let me just try to delete it. Just to make sure I don't want to apply things that are not needed. And do reload. Yeah. The problem was a different one. It just reminded me of that solution, so I jumped too early, but the problem was like a wrong package that I installed. Okay, now everything is back to normal. We have that audio player with play and pause. What we need is an audio file and that we can generate here by pressing convert to audio. In a second, we're gonna get that one here. Are we? Failed to fetch audio. Come on. Status code for 1. Don't tell me that I ran out of credits. No, I still have credits. Why did it fail? Readable failed to fetch audio. And that's coming from status code 401. That one is something with not allowed, so something related to the API key. Okay, second try it worked. So I can do play. And it works. I'm not sure if you heard it, but by pressing play, it worked once. It doesn't work the second time, but we can adjust that things. Perfect. So that's good. Should I? Do you want me to develop the audio player file together with you to add the UI and the functionality of play, pause, restart, and so on? Or do you want me to take to give you the code and we can move to the next feature of the speech to text? What do you think is a better approach? I'm going to get some water and we continue in a second. So see, more of you want me to build it. Let's do that. I'm going to add one more reset because the second time when we press play, it doesn't play again because it finished. So with reset, I can do player.seek2, and seek2 changes the position of a player. So if I do, why it doesn't update here? You know what I'm going to do? Because I'm going to reload a lot, I don't want to generate this audio file so often. I'm going to double check if I logged. No. I'm going to do the following. I'm going to do console log URI. I'm going to take a bigger piece of text, like this one. I'm going to do reload. I'm going to first generate this audio file. Convert it. And I'm going to take this URI and I'm going to go back into the index. And in this audio file URI, in the state, I'm going to override it with this file, so that even after I reload my application, it still points to that file and I don't have to generate new ones. So now I can play. I can pause it. I can play again, and I can reset to start from the beginning. Perfect. So now my buttons work. I'm not sure. I don't think you can hear it, but if you're following along, you're going to see that it works. But we need to implement it a little bit better. Well, before we move to the UI, I'm also going to show you something. First of all, if we need information about the player, such as is the player currently playing, is it muted or not, what is the position, and so on, there is another hook called use audio player status, and we send there the player itself. Const status equal to use player status. And if I'm just going to do console log status, what you should see is the status has like current time, it has like the duration of a file, if it's buffering, if it's loaded, if it's looping, and so on, like a lot of information. And if we play, you're gonna see that it updates at different intervals and gives us like what is the current time of a player. Based on the current time and the duration, we can know like the percentage. So we can calculate, for example, or maybe, yeah, let me think. Well, there is also this information, is playing, right? Or playing equal false. Let's start with this one. And what we want to do is we want some icons. I'm gonna go to here, Expo Vector icons, and I'm going to find a play icon, like the InDesign one, or let's go with Font Awesome. Let's render it here, and let's make sure to import Font Awesome from the top. There is also, we also need a pause. Yeah, for the colors, I can go gray, or maybe royal blue, and here as well. When For the play, I'm going to move this on press to this icon, and the cool thing is that these vector icons, they have press events as well. For pause as well. So now we do not need the play and pause text because we have play and pause here. I don't want to render them at the same time. I want to render either play if it's currently paused and pause if it's currently playing. So with status.playing, we can know what icon we want to render. For example, if status.playing is true with a question mark, we're going to render the pause button, otherwise play button. Just like that, we have a play and a pause depending on the state. For reset, I don't need the reset. What I wanted to do actually is I wanted to reset it automatically when it got to the end. But maybe I'm going to cover that a bit later. The next thing I want to do is I want to show like the playback bar. That one is going to consist of two views. If I do it like this, a view inside another view. Why do we need two views? Well, the first one is going to be the background. So we can say that it has we need a line to render. So the height is 10, background gray, width 100, something like that. The one inside is also going to have height 10, but the background is going to be royal blue, and the width is going to depend on the position of our playback. Obviously, I can do border radius as well, like 10, and the same border radius for the one inside, like this. Nice. I can also put them in the same row using flex direction row here. And a gap of 10. And maybe padding 10 as well. This with 100. Not sure if I need it with 100. Maybe I can do it with flex 1. Flex 1. Still doesn't work because it goes over the screen. Why? Flex 1. Give me a second to debug this one, background red. Okay, now for some reason it works. It just didn't refresh. But with flex 1, that was the solution. Okay, good. About this 50%, how do we calculate it? Well, we know from the status, let's do progress. We know the position of a playback, or how is it called? How is it called? Current time and the duration. So we can take the current time, divide it by the duration, and if you want it in percentages, or maybe that's going to be down below, because this one is going to give us a value from 0 to 1. Where 0 it just started, 1 is all the way there. I can take this progress. I can go to the view that is rendering on in front, and I can replace this one with a template string where I'm going to take progress. I'm going to multiply it by 100 to transform it to percentages. I'm going to put this percentage sign. So as I play, you see the bar moving. Maybe this one can be Gainsborough, lighter, and when it reaches the end, now it doesn't pause, like we cannot do anything because it finished. We just have to press reset. So with this playback bar, we are done. Let's go ahead and remove the reset button that does sync to 0 and do this automatically. We're gonna do this automatically with a use effect that is going to run every time the status.didJustFinish change. Our player status has a property didJustFinish, which is going to be true when the media player finishes, when the audio finishes. I'm going to check if status didJustFinish is equal to true, then I'm going to sync to 0, basically resetting. And now it should work automatically, like once reaching the end, it should reset to 0.
This guide will help you build a text-to-speech and a speech-to-text app in React Native using ElevenLabs.
That's it, like it finishes and it starts from the beginning. So we can replay it again. So that is a very simple player that has visual feedback that you can work with. Of course, there is a lot of way you can improve this one. You can animate this bar here with reanimated, so it doesn't jump, but it flows slowly. That is going to improve like how it looks. You can also add the possibility to move around by making this a pressable, and then you will get the position where the user pressed. Maybe I can do that. Let's transform this view to a pressable. Maybe that's important. And in the onPress event, we get the event, and if I do console log e.nativeEvent.location x, what that is going to be. If I press at the beginning, let me reload. If I press at the beginning, that's 6. If I press in the middle, that's 167. If I press at the end, that's 333. That basically means the pixel location inside the pressable itself. So at the beginning is going to be 0. For us to be able to transform this to a location in the audio file, we need to know how wide is like the end, like how wide is this bar. At the moment it's dynamic based on the screen, so on the bigger screens it's going to be wider. However, there is a onLayout event that also has an event that specifies, gives us the width of a rendered layout. So width, if I do that and reload, width 333. So on this device is 333. What we need to do is we need to save this in state, because we are going to need to access it in another function. So I'm going to define here at the top the const playback bar width, set playback bar width. I'm going to initialize it with 0. When we render this playback bar, I'm going to say set playback bar width using the native event.layout.width, and here in console log we can say move to, and we can do some math. Knowing the location of where the user pressed, we can divide it by the total width, and that is going to be in kind of percentage, and also like from 0 to 1. Not layout width, but playback bar width, already taking it from state. So if now I'm going to press here, move to infinity, because playback bar is null. I need to reload the app for the layout to be called again. Now if I press here, we see around 0.45%, or 45%. If I move here, it's almost 100%. If I press here, it's 10%. So I can take this value and I can call player.seek2 and do this calculation. So if I press here, let's see if it's going to work. If I do play,
This guide will help you.
and if I press here, maybe no, this is going to be percentage, but seek2 goes to seconds. So this percentage, we're going to have to multiply by the player dot duration. So we apply the percentage based on the duration. So if I press here, it comes here. If I press here, it comes here.
You build a tech native using ElevenLabs will help you build ElevenLabs.
So now we can move around easily. I'm wondering if here, if I don't need like this setter, if this event also has the width. Can I see that? Event.nativeWidth.layout. No, it doesn't have layout, you see. So yeah, the width can only be taken from the layout. But setting it in state, it still works, not a problem. So yeah, now we have this also important feature, especially like with long files, you can move around back and forth.
Using ElevenLabs.
Again, you can improve this one to be able to drag and drop. You can also, like as you have this view, you can add another view here with for the dot, and that dot is going to be width 10, height 10, background color. Let's do it with red initially. Maybe 15. I will do border radius 15. I'm going to position it absolute. I'm going to translate it a little bit up, not on the X, but maybe on the X as well, but on the Y axis as well to move it a little bit higher. Not 7.5, like it's, you can do a math calculation here, but basically 15 minus 10 divided by 2. So I'm moving it 2.5. You can achieve this in other ways as well, but I don't want to stop too much here. And can even do, yeah, in the left position, you can say, I don't know, 50%, and that's going to put it in the middle. But what you want to do here, instead of 50%, do the same thing as here, progress multiplied by 100. So now we have a dot as well. And I can make it royal blue, like this. Maybe it needs a border with 2, color white. I don't know if it needs, but maybe it looks good. Perfect. So what I'm going to do is I will do a git status, git add, git commit, play generated audio, and audio player UI, and functionality as well. All right, I hope you managed to implement this as well. If you're interested, let me know. If you have any questions, we can add like additional features, but I think that's already good what we have here. I'm going to move on in the next step to the speech to text, because that's also a very exciting feature. And yeah, without further ado, I think we're gonna get into that. Oh, come on. Hello. Hide. I'm planning to buy your course. Can you show demo of a final project in the course? I don't think I have it very ready to jump into that, but let me see. The last course of React Native, the last project of React Native Mastery, we are basically building 7 different projects, and the last one is the ultimate social media application. So that one is a heavy one. What I can show you actually, if you give me 1 second, is the guide for that project to see like how in depth it goes. So let me just go into the Academy, React Native Mastery, and the guide. So this is the step-by-step guide that our students receive, all 7 projects here. And we have ultimate social media project. Here is some UI from that. And everything is like functional. The learning goals here is to learn native wind, is to learn advanced Expo router patterns, Expo API router, and there I stop and explain way more in depth than in today's tutorial, with all the possibilities, with dynamic path parameters, with data, with different requests like get, post, patch, and so on. We're also learning a lot about the Tanstack query, how to manage that in our front end, how to build the application for both web and mobile, how to host it together with API routes, how to build it using EAS, how to integrate push notifications. So as you can see, there is quite a lot of things that you're learning just in 1 out of 7 projects here. And in terms of lessons, like everything is split like into the native wind, Expo router, backend, with Postgres database, data fetching with Tanstack, web, EAS build, notifications, and the workshop at the end. And all of the lessons, like they have like very in-depth explanation, besides the video lessons that you get. You also have like this that you can go in depth and see like exactly what you're learning, and you can even use it later in your project as well. Like just come back here, look at what you're searching for, and apply. And the workshop are also fun. For example, which one? I'm not sure if the one where also have like building a game, like a 2-day game. This is the game that you're gonna build in React Native Mastery. It's a very fun one. By building it, you're learning about animated and gestures. But what I wanted to show you is that all the modules end with a workshop where you practice things. So in these workshops, after you learn about drag and drop, you're going to build this kind of drag and drop game as well. And you have a source code, you have a tasks, and you're applying all the learnings to this one. So yeah, if you still have any questions, let me know. I'm very happy to show you more, depending on what exactly is your goals. Sorry. And I see anime streaming saying that, thank you, your courses teaches me a lot and I have so much advanced in React Native. Perfect, thank you very much. I appreciate that. Okay, dokie. What do we have here? Git status. Thank you, Hyde. Okay, let's move on to the next use case. The next use case is the speech to text. This one, like we have an audio file and we want to extract the text out of this. Again, there is so many ideas and so many use cases where you can apply this for audio and video transcriptions, for calls, for video captions, for creating like some kind of podcasts. With the help of ElevenLabs, you can even clone your voice and build like applications for content creation and stuff like that. Support, I don't know, there is a lot of use cases. But everything starts with an audio file. So in our case, let's go ahead in our app speech to text, and here let's record an audio file first, and we're gonna do that also with the Expo audio library. We already have set the microphone permissions. I'm going to look into the recording sound. Well, to do that, we have this use audio recorder, which I'm going to do const or import use audio recorder from Expo Audio. And let's go ahead and do use audio recorder. And here in the options, you can also specify the quality as far as I understand. Or maybe not in the options, but just recording presets dot high quality. What do we get back? We have the audio recorder. And we can define handle start recording using audio recording dot record, and handle stop recording with stop. Well, basically that's what it does. There is also this prepare to record async. Let's run this as well in the handle start recording. That's probably going to ask for permission if it doesn't have, and will prepare everything to be able to record. The permissions are asked here in this use effect, so maybe we can take it and add it as well. Import use effect, audio module from Expo Audio, and we do request recording permissions. And if it's not granted, we cannot access the microphone, so we're gonna show an alert. What else is recording? Where is it taken from? Depending on the state. I'm wondering if there is a possibility not to use state, but to use something like use audio recorder state, and then status, for example, and what information will that status have? Let's do console log status. For now on, I'm going to render two buttons, record and another one, stop recording. I'm going to keep it simple. On press, I'm going to call handle start recording, and the second one handle stop recording. If I move it to the next tab, it doesn't work because, oh no, it works. It just needs experience. It needs permission. So I'm gonna press allow, and I have these two buttons. And I also do a console log for the status. Let's check the console log. Status can record false. Why can record false? I don't know. Record can record true, and stop. Okay, something happened. I don't know what. Where are we going to get the file? It's here. It has audio recorder URI. So in handle stop, if I do console log audio recorder dot URI, will it work? Let me comment out this one. Let's go to the speech to text, record audio, hello, 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 stop, and it's going to show me this one. And if I press on it, it cannot open, but I can try, because we have that player that we built in the previous tab. I can import the audio player from our components. I can create a state with audio file URI. This time it's not going to be generated by ElevenLabs, it's going to be a recording. I will, or maybe I don't need it because I'm going to have it in the audio recorder. I'm going to do if audio recorder URI, then render the player with that URI. If I'm gonna go here, it has something, but I don't know why. I cannot play. But if I do record audio, hello, 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 stop. Something doesn't work. Hello, 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 stop. I'm gonna do this status. I think it's messing up with my setup. And this status is coming from the player as well. I'm going to remove some of these console logs because it's messing up my logs here. Text to speech. Well, here I would like to see what is the player URI. No, not here. Speech to text. It has a URI. Why it has it? Let me try one thing with the state. Like after handle stop recording, I'm going to set it in state. Only if it exists, of course. If it exists, set it in state. And then I'm going to work based on that one from state, audio file URI. Here, and in the player as well. Let's try right now. MA4 correct format. I think it should work with that as well. M4A. So record, hello, 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 stop, and only now it has it. Yeah, now it works. So basically the audio recorder has that URI because it kind of creates a temporary empty file, and as it records, it writes data there. So that's why it initially had it. But because if I send it to the audio player like that, it was not reloaded when I finished recording. That's why with this little part of setting it in state only after we finish, then it works. Maybe actually it would be a better approach if I'm going to do is recording. I'm going to set is recording to true when we start. I'm going to send it to false when we finish. Based on that, we can decide what button to show. If it's recording, I will do stop recording. Otherwise, handle start. This one I don't need. And in that case, maybe I don't need the other file. Maybe I'm going to directly access it here, but only after is recording is false. Is recording is false. No, I don't like it because, yeah, I'm going to leave it as it was. It's working, so I will not over optimize stuff because I don't want to confuse you. So now I can do record audio. Hello, hello. I can do stop audio. The player appears. I can test it out. And then I'll be able to send it to the backend to extract the transcription. Obviously, I can improve this handle or stop recording by transforming this one to a pressable. And the one that has stop recording, I'm going to make it like a red dot. Sorry. Width 100, height 100, border radius 100, background color crimson, like a red. And the same thing here for the second one, but make sure that you change here from handle stop recording to handle start recording and change the color from crimson to Gainsborough. Maybe 100 is too much. 50. And you can do aspect ratio 1 instead of height. Yeah, that's good. And I will do the same here. So now if I press, I see that it's recording. Hello, hello. If I stop, here we have a player. Hello, hello. And also maybe when we do start recording, I'm going to reset the previous audio file. So if I start again, I'll reset the previous one. Yeah, perfect. Hello, never mind. Hello, Gwip. Hello, Rodrigo. So this is the simple UI that we have here for recording audio. And what I'm going to do, yeah, maybe we can improve it later, but now it's good enough because we have audio file and we can go to the next step. Speech to text, basic UI. Because the next step for us is going to be to take this local file, send it to our API routes, and then using ElevenLabs, look, there is in ElevenLabs, there is the speech to text. And you have a speech and you're gonna get back text. How do I see maybe in the quick start? Yeah, basically kind of the same thing, but now it's the other way around. From the client, we need to send to our backend a file. Then we do this. Maybe I'm going to actually do with this one here. First, let's go ahead and create a new API route, calling it STT, which is speech to text plus API. And again, I'm going to do export async function. And here we need a post request. And what I'm going to do is let's do the same thing as from the documentation. We import ElevenLabs client at the top. We create this client. If you have this name for the API key in the environment variables, you don't have to send it because it's going to be picked up automatically. Now, let's go with this part of the code and add it to our post request here. So for now, we're not using the audio that we send. We are simply using some audio from the Google storage. It transforms it to an audio file, audio blob, and then it sends it to the speech to text, it converts, and then here is the transcription, which we can return as response.json transcription, like this. We can also right away add it into a try catch, not to forget about this. Try here. At the end, catch error, and if there is an error, we're going to return response.json, but with a status code 500. And let's try this simple approach from the documentation that takes a random file and returns us the transcriptions. If I'm gonna go back to my front end where we have speech to text, let's go back to the index and copy that button, like this button. And maybe it's a good time to transform it to a reusable button. Yeah, I don't want to copy both button and styles. So for that reason, in the components, I'm going to take a little side quest. I'm going to extract this button to a reusable one, like convert to audio, because I'm going to need it in multiple places. So let's create a new file in our components called custom button.tsx. Let's do export default function custom button, and this custom button is going to render this pressable and text. Return pressable and text. Let's import pressable. Let's import text. The on press is going to be something that we're going to receive. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say that the type custom button props is going to have a title string, and everything else is going to inherit from the pressable props. Now I'm going to take the title and the pressable props here. I'm going to send all the pressable props to the pressable, and I'm going to send the title here instead of convert audio. I'm also going to do a style sheet here. If I move too fast, sorry, but we have to move to focus on the topic of today's video. In these custom buttons, I actually go very in depth, like how to create these reusable components that will help you scale your projects. I go in depth in React Native Mastery. Here I'm just gonna go with a style sheet, and I'm going to also bring back the button and the button text style. I'm gonna copy from here, and actually I'm going to cut them from here to a custom button like this. So now our custom button is ready. We can go back to the index, and instead of rendering this one, we can render custom button with a imported from our components with a simple title, convert to audio, and on press event. And everything is still gonna work. And the cool thing is that now, because this is a reusable component, I can go into the speech to text and render it here as well. Maybe actually also dynamically, only the user after the player. Custom button, convert to text, handle, convert. Let's go ahead and implement this handle convert. Speech to text, const, handle convert. What we're going to do is we're going to send a request to our API from the API folder of our Expo router to the STT, but it doesn't need the plus API. That's only for Expo router. We're going to do a method post. Yeah, this is not done yet. Like, we just need the response. And back, we're going to get some JSON. So we can take that response.json and we can look at the transcription. Let's see if it works. Because remember, in the API STT, we are working with the like hello world example from the documentation that is simply working with some public audio file. And it's supposed to return us the transcription. If I go to not custom button, to speech to text page, we have here console log after the request. If I look into the logs, clear them first. And if I go to speech to text and do hello, 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 I see the convert to text button. If I press it, we see some data back. We see data. We see the speech based on the timestamps. And also at the top, there is the whole text. This is cool because it has both the text and the different words, because with the words you can build caption or video editing tools that would add captions at the specific position. And that's cool. But I just need the text. So what I can do is in my front end, in my page, I'll create a state called transcription. Let's do set transcription, data.transcription, and let's say here if transcription is defined, I want to render a view with a transcription dot text, not the whole object, but just the text. So if I go here and say hello, hello, and do convert, when I get back is the result. Perfect. And here you can adjust like how you want to align stuff. So I'm going to remove these alignments. I'm going to do padding 10. Gap 10. Yeah, I think that's fine. Just this pressable for the handle play and pause. Like I don't really like it, but it's fine. Margin, align self-center. Maybe I can put it at the bottom of the page. Position absolute, bottom right. You can make it even better, I'm pretty sure, but I'm going to just leave it like this. So if I do hello, hello, maybe when I start, I will reset the transcriptions as well. So hello, hello, how are you doing? I have a text, I do convert to text, and I have a conversion. Okay, but it's not the things that I'm saying, it's the dummy data. How can we take this file that we recorded locally and send it to the backend? Well, to be honest, I also don't remember. We just need to also like convert something to binary and send it. But I'm going to look quickly at the way I prepared speech to text. So what I'm doing is I'm doing base64 file system read, and then I'm sending with as a JSON stringified the base64. So this is the part that I'm doing. So not to confuse anyone, in the client-side code, in the page speech to text that we are using to record the audio file, when we press this handle convert button, we already have the audio file URI. In the handle convert, we can also say like if there is no audio file URI, we can show it to the user and stop here. However, if there is one, we're going to use the file system, which we need to import at the top. Import everything as file system from Expo file system. And we need to read as async the audio source, not the audio source, the audio file URI with encoding base64. Having this base64 encoding, we're going to send it like this to the backend. Now, this base64 is going to reach our /API/STT, so /API/STT file. It's going to reach here in the request. What we're going to do is we're going to say const base64 audio is equal await request.json, parsing it from there. And the next step is what? We're no longer going to use this one from Google APIs, but we need to transform it to this kind of blob. Let me check how I did that previously. Speech to text. Okay. I first transform it to a buffer, then to a blob, like this. So instead of these two lines, I'm going to have convert to buffer, and I'm going to use this name, base64 audio. And then that buffer, I'm going to create it into a blob with a type audio, and this blob, I can send it as a file to the speech to text. Maybe we can call it audio blob. Now, everything else remains the same, and everything is supposed to work if we didn't make any mistakes. Let's reload. Let's go to the speech to text, and here is our button. It's not very user friendly. definitely like you can do better, but I know that if I press it, this is going to record, and in a second we're going to see the transcriptions of this if everything worked correctly. Let's stop. You can hear it. And then you can press convert to text to send it to the backend. The backend is going to use ElevenLabs and is going to transcribe it. And we see this is going to record, and in a second we're going to see the transcription of this if everything worked correctly. Let's stop. Exactly what I was doing there. Perfect. Perfect, perfect, perfect. I love it. So with that being said, this functionality is implemented. Yeah, you can improve on this, but you have the whole system from A to B, from a microphone to recording the audio, to storing it, to reading it, to sending it to your API route, from the API route, sending it to ElevenLabs, getting the transcription, and then sending it back and displaying it here. So we close the whole loop there. I'm going to actually, I don't need this console here. And I'm going to do git status, git add, git commit. We are not done yet because I want to show you other cool stuff. Speech to text. Cool. There is one thing that I just got an idea for. Let me think if that's going to be super hard to implement on your player. Speech to text. What if instead of a text like this, we are going to do the following? Because remember, the transcription had also the words. So what if I'm going to map over the words? If it works, it's going to be amazing. Transcription.words.map, and for every word, I'll render a text with the word itself. Not sure. I think word.text. Word.text. 1, 2, 3. This is a test. Let's see if it works. Okay, 1, 2, 3, and so on. This, I'm going to put all of them inside another text field because we can wrap around texts. Okay, this text needs a key just for it to work properly. Maybe I'm going to do it with the index. And we see the same transcription, right? But there is one cool thing, is that we know the start and end time of all the words, and we can synchronize it with a playback here to highlight the current word. What do I mean by that? Well, it's going to be a bit tricky because this audio player, I'm going to have to send here, like in the audio player, I'm going to have to apply on progress change callback function, And what I'm going to do is use effect. If progress changes, I'm going to call this on progress change. Only if it's sent, because I can do it with question mark. So now my player is going to send data about the progress change. And in the speech to text, I can subscribe to that and set it in state. Having here a const playback position. Maybe not playback position. Maybe a bit different. Maybe not on the progress, but on the current time. We can pass around this player in a better way, like in a more optimal way, but yeah, I don't need the progress, but on playback position change, if status.current time changes, I'm going to call it here. Yeah, not on the progress, because I need the time, not the a percentage based. Okay, now here, and not progress, I need to send the status.current time. In the speech to text, we have a playback position, and where we have a player, we can say on playback position change, set playback position. Having this position, let's do position, playback position. I'm going to show you that it works. Hello, 1, 2, 3. Let's test this out if the playback position is going to update. Convert text. Position 0. If I play, hello, 1, 2, 3. Let's test this out. It changes. And what I can do is, knowing when a word starts, I can highlight that word. I can highlight that with a style here. If I do background color pink, I don't know. But it's going to be pink only if the playback position is more than word.start and playback position is less than word.end. I just need to make sure that they are in the same kind of format. This is 9. Yeah, I think it is. So background color, question mark is going to be pink, otherwise transparent. Look, now we're going to be able to highlight the word based on the playback position, and with this approach you can implement something like short video captions, like for the audio in the video, and display them on the video itself. Let's see if it works. Convert to text. Position 0. Let's see if I play. Look, now we're going to be able to highlight the word based on the playback position, and with this approach you can implement something like short video captions, like for the audio in the video. Well, it works. It's not ideal. Why it's not ideal? Because of how fast the playback position changes. You can adjust that, you can do it more often, but it's working. So if I go here, you're gonna see this is the word playback. If I go here, it moves here. Amazing. 430. Yeah, nice. Position, with this approach you can implement something like yeah, like this can, you can always, you can adjust this a little bit to highlight the first word after the word start. But you need like a variable there. It's not very hard, but you can do that. Skrillex song plays. What? Okay, nice. So I'm happy that we managed to even do this one with word highlighting. Git add, git commit -m, highlight the words in the playback. And next, what I want to do is I want to show you a little bit more use cases of applications, because this is the base of the text-to-speech and speech-to-text. You have like everything ready for you to implement and adjust and adapt to your own cases. I specifically wanted to make this tutorial very generic in order for you to be able to apply it in any use cases in any application, because there is so many ideas you can implement with this. Now, what I want to do is I want to show you a fun way to implement an application that would take a tweet, would take that data, will scrape it, and will generate an audio for that tweet. And this approach you can apply to other data as well, like blog posts or Reddit posts and so on. So in the next step, that's what we're going to do. And for that, we're going to use Bright Data to scrape this information. And then the system is the same. We're going to do the same things as we did so far. I have here my dog. He wants attention. Let's go ahead and for that, create in our application one more file called tweet to speech.tsx. Let's do export default function, and we have here a view. Let's do import view and text from React Native, and most probably a style sheet as well. Define the styles and apply it here to the container. So we have a tweet to speech. Should we find an icon for it? Tweet X. Is there X like logo? Spending too much time to search for it. It's going to be a bird. This bird. Material community icons. So in the layout, let's go ahead and duplicate one of these tabs for the tweet to speech. And let's do a tab icon. Oh, font awesome Twitter. Ah, that's good. So here, what we're going to need is going to be input for the URL. Text input, enter a tweet URL. We're going to add some styles for this input. And we are going to store the value in a state. So if I go here, yeah. Let's do background color white for the container. I'm going to remove justify items and align items. I'm going to add simply padding. For the input background color, I don't need white. I need border width and border color. Gains, borrow. And I think we are good. A lower radius will also work. Was it 10 in other places? Maybe. Below that, we're going to have a custom button that we created as a reusable component that we can import from components. And we do convert to speech. And let's do const handle convert. If I come here, perfect. Let's go ahead in our API, create a new file called tweet to speech.ts, and here export a sync function. Post, we're going to send a tweet URL through requests, and let's do a response like this. Maybe we can even add error handling for if there is no tweet URL, return 400. Now in this one, when we press handle convert, what we need to do is to fetch this endpoint that we just created and to send the tweet URL. Maybe the state, it's good like this. So if I go here and I take a Twitter URL, let me try to find something that has a little bit more text. Let's do this one. So if I come here and paste it here, convert to speech, I should receive it. What's going on here? Let's double check. I did something wrong. Unable to resolve React Native Web. What am I doing? Is it in this handle tweet? Maybe in this text to switch. Request response. No. Oh, yes, I forgot something. Can anyone tell me what I forgot? I forgot in the file name to say plus API. Because without plus API, this is not going to be an API route. Now with this one fixed, I can test it again by setting here a tweet, convert, and we see a data message, we see back, but on the backend we see the tweet URL. Cool. Well, what do we do next? Obsidian is asking, how difficult would it be to use the tweet input but push it to AI? I'm not sure, what do you mean? Push it to AI. Hey Mossab, that is a nice story. Thank you for mentioning it. I hope you passed the project. Don't forget to take a water break. Thank you very much. Okay, on the backend, having a tweet URL, we need to get the data of that Twitter. of that tweet. To get the data from the web, like there are two ways. Sometimes you can use an API. Sometimes these APIs are either not available or they're super expensive. In case of Twitter, the API is quite expensive. So that's why when I have situations like that, I always think about Bright Data, because with Bright Data, you can scrape any data on the internet. And in a lot of cases, much more cost effective than by using the API. In some cases, if the API is not available and you need that data, Bright Data is also the solution. They have this in the products web scraper API that makes it super simple. Like, you don't even have to develop that scraper because Bright Data did that for us. We created a bunch of scrapers that knows how to get the data, how to parse it, and they simply return us JSON files for different inputs. So it's as simple as working or sending a request to an API. Let's go ahead. You can start a free trial. I recommend you following the link in the description below because you get some free credits as well to test it out. So follow the link in the description of the video and get started with a new account. And once you have that, let me just double check. Let me sign in my account. If I can remember my password. Okay, here is my access code. All right, once you create your account and you get on the homepage, go ahead to the web datasets. No, go ahead to the web scrapers, and in the web scrapers, you're going to see the web scraper library. This is a huge library with hundreds of different sources that you can scrape and choose the one that you're interested in. I think Reddit for our use case would be also very nice. I was thinking already about ideas for applications where I could take Reddit stories. I could generate the audio with ElevenLabs. I could scrape the Reddit story data with Bright Data, and then I could generate videos, like short videos, like for TikTok and so on. That would be like one use case that you can apply this to. I'm going to search for x.com, and there is collect posts by URLs. You can also get information about profiles, but I will need information about post. I'm gonna select that one, go to the scraper API, and here it is. So what do we have? We have here a preview of how the response for one request is going to look like. We're gonna have a user who posted, the name, the description, which is basically the tweet itself, the URL, the number of reposts, likes, hashtags, followers, biography, like a lot of things. How do we work with this? We go into the API request builder here. You're going to need to set your API key in the field here. It's going to show you a button to create the API key. And what we see is, I'm going to make it bigger so you can see it, a way for us to test the API. The first step is to trigger the data collection API to tell, hey, Bright Data, can you collect the data from this URL? It has like a bunch of URLs here because you can do bash requests as well. I'm going to remove all of them and only choose this URL from here. I'm going to send here as the first URL. Yes. And on the right, we see the curl request that we have to do to start processing that request. If I switch here to notjust fetch, it's showing us how to do this with fetch request. So let's copy everything. And let's go in our tweet to speech and add here the code, maybe where I'm going to create a new file function called start scraping, the URL, and I'm going to paste the code copy from Bright Data. We don't need to require the fetch because fetch is by default available. The data is here an array. Maybe I'm going to leave it hard coded, or I can already do URL here, no problem. I'm going to fetch API Bright Data, data/trigger. This dataset ID is the dynamic ID of the Twitter dataset. So by changing this dataset ID, you get different data. And we do a method post. We do the headers authorization with this API token. Maybe in a second, we're going to do use token from env or API. We do body data. I will transform this one to a const response equal await fetch, and after it const data await response.json. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to make this function async. I'm going to do console log data. Maybe not data, but response data. Let's call this start scraping function in this post URL with a Twitter URL. Await start scraping tweet URL, and let's see what's going to be the response. Maybe I will do a json.stringify so you see it better. So if I press convert to speech, we see the tweet URL and the data coming back from Bright Data is an object with a snapshot ID. The snapshot ID represents the ID of the scraping job. Because some scraping jobs can take longer, what we do is we don't wait for the result. We start the job and then Bright Data gives us an ID, and later with that ID we can download their results. To download the results, in the management API here, we can monitor the progress. So if I put the snapshot ID here that I copied from my logs there, I will copy this curl command and I will show you by sending this request in the terminal, simply sending a get request to this progress API. If I do that, we see status ready, snapshot ID, dataset, records, and so on. So this API request to the dataset's progress gives us information about the progress, like if it's ready or not. But the next one is already to download the results. So there are a couple of delivery options. You can either download or send it to an S3 bucket. I'm going to choose download. I'm going to replace this snapshot ID here. And I'm going to say, give me in the JSON file. And that's it. This configuration created this request for us. That I can transform to notjust as well. And I can copy it from here. And I can create here another function. Async function. Get scraping results. Snapshot ID. And we get them by doing paste. I'm not gonna have HTTPS here. Options. I'm not sure why it's already different. I think it streams data. But I'm going to recreate it with a simple fetch. So if I do response equal await fetch, I need the URL, something like this. I'm going to probably copy everything from here and do paste here. The difference, as you can see, is in the path. We need the datasets v3 snapshot. So datasets v3, not trigger, but snapshot. And slash the snapshot ID. So I'm going to remove everything from the end. And what do we have? v3 snapshot. And then it goes with snapshot ID. That means I'm going to use a template string to say snapshot ID dynamically and question mark format JSON, specifying that I want them in JSON. The method is get. I just need the headers authorization, something like this. So headers, I'm going to copy this authorization header and maybe even the content type. And I think that's it. I will remove everything that I don't need. Let's do response data equal JSON. And I'm going to try right now to do await get scraping results using the previous snapshot ID. And I'm going to explain why. So I'm going to comment for a second, start scraping. I just want to test my function to get the scraping results. If I press convert now, we see the user who posted by ID. We see the description. We've just published the hackathon. We see the number of following, the likes, and so on. Post counts. Perfect. So we have everything scraped for that tweet. The only thing is that this scraping result is not going to be available right after start scraping. It's going to be available like after a bit of time. Let me create another function, async function, get tweet data, and it's going to get the URL. And what's going to happen is, well, first of all, it's going to start the scraping job. The scraping job function should return back the snapshot ID. Response.snapshot ID. So we are going to get snapshot ID by calling this one. Then we need to wait for results / polling. Because, yeah, I'm going to copy this one here. Get snapshot ID. Because if I do right away like this, and from get scraping results, I need to do return response data. If I do that, it's not going to be available instantly. It needs like a couple of milliseconds or seconds to do that. In my post body, I'm going to simply say tweet data equal get tweet data. Return tweet data. Or maybe I will not return it, I don't know. So if I do convert text to speech, what we see, response data status running. Snapshot is not ready yet. Try again in 30 seconds. Cool. That means that the response data has this status. We can ask nicely. We can implement some polling mechanism. For that, what we're going to do is while, let's say while true, I want to try to get the tweet data, and if status is equal to ready, wait a second, I need to get that one. The AI generated the code, and I'm looking now at. So let tweet data here. It's going to work like this. So I'm gonna need it anymore. And I'm going to do if I just don't know if the good one has status, because the good one it doesn't have status. So only the bad one has status. That's why data response data dot status running. If tweet data dot status equal to running, and there are other statuses as well. Ready, running, or failed. So I'm going to do if it's running, or no, if it's running, I will do this one. If it's equal to failed, I'm going to throw an error. Otherwise, I'm going to wait a second. Let's do else if, else break, stop the while loop. I'll return tweet data. So we kind of created a very basic, very old school polling mechanism. Why that will start the scraping job, and right away we'll send a request to get the result. Most probably that data is going to have status running, because we saw like if it's too early, the response data is have status running. If that's true, we're going to say await 1 second. That's what this row does. It's going to await 1 second. It's going to go back in the while and do it once again. It's going to get new tweet data. It's going to check the status. If it's still running, it's going to wait 1 more second. Like that until it either failed and then we throw an error, or if it's not failed nor it is running, it's going to break this infinite while loop and it's going to come here. You can also add some measures to avoid infinite loops like number of tries, let number of attempts. So we can say number of attempts 10 and say number of attempts plus plus. Maybe here. Let me think. So while number of attempts is less than 10, like you attempt. That would make it like 10 seconds, right? Maybe you can even do 30. So if after 30 attempts, like it's still running, then sorry, something happened. So now with this approach, like we can simply call get with data and we should get that data back. Const console log JSON stringify tweet data. Let me remove our console logs not to get confused. Yeah, perfect. And now if I'm going to go here and do convert text to speech, we see that with URL, it started the scraping job. It is waiting a couple of like trying to get the data in a couple of attempts, and then we have the message tweet URL received with data. Maybe it even has the status, but I don't see it. Oh, that is already in the front end. Oh, nice. This is in the back end. Perfect. So now having this data with a description, we can transform it to audio, similar to how we did that in the text-to-speech. So we need the ElevenLabs in the tweet to speech. I'm going to do that at the top. And here in the post, after we have a tweet data, I can do, I'm going to look how I did it here. Audio, text model output. Then I'm going to collect the chunks, concatenate it to this one and send the audio response. Or you know what? The text tweet to speech is not going to actually transform it to speech. It's just going to return the tweet data. And I'm going to call it get tweet API. Because I can reuse the same one without creating it like multiple times, like without copy pasting a lot. So I'm going to remove from tweet API. I'm going to remove this one and just send the tweet data there. I think it should be, because this is an array, maybe tweet data at position 0, something like that. Oh, it's good. Now, in the text to speech, I will do here first, I will get the tweet. I will set the tweet data here. I can even display it on the screen if tweet data. I will render tweet data, I think .description. So let me check. If I go here, take a URL, drop it here, convert to speech. tweet data. Think I need to reload. Convert. Why don't I see the text? Maybe, yeah, maybe I know why. Console log JSON stringify data. So let's see what data do we have. Yeah, data.tweet. If I do it once again, this is going to be the data and it has tweet. Yeah, so what I'm going to do is set tweet data.tweet, and now it should show properly. Convert. Let's wait for a bit. Hello Tardin Dev, how are you doing? Tweet has description. Okay, here we have a description. And right after I get the tweet data, I can call the text-to-speech API to transform that to text, to speech. And I will do that similar to how I did it on the index. In the index, text to speech. I need to reset this one to empty, like not to have any defaults. And basically I have to copy paste this part here. I mean, you can extract it to a reusable component utils file. But I will just simply copy paste it for now in the tweet. No, in the tweet to speech client side function. And I'm gonna copy paste it here. I will do handle convert to speech. It's going to send to TTS, text to speech, and the text is going to be tweet data, or maybe, yeah, tweet data dot description. And we need file system here, so let's import everything as file system. String, it writes to that one, and then it set it in state as the audio file. So this audio file in state needs to be audio file at the top. We set it, and after the tweet data we can say if audio file URI, let's render the player. Audio player. The only thing is to call this handle convert to speech at the right moment, and maybe we can send here a text string, so it's going to be easier not to depend on state, because I will call it Right after setting it the state, I will call this one with data.tweet.description. So now let's test the whole thing once again. If I do that, first it's going to use bright data to scrape the tweet. It's going to display the text here. Then it's going to call another API endpoint, API route, to transform it to speech. In a second, we should see the player here as well, if everything worked correctly. Did it work? Audio file URI. Failed to save generated audio file, doesn't exist. Yeah, I need to import buffer. So I will do it again. I'll press it. In a second, we should see the player. Do we see the player? Yes, we see the player. And let's see.
We've just published all the final hack projects on our website.
Works.
It still blows my mind to see how many of you there are. Check out here. https t.co pppftts2.
Even the how's it called, the link. So yeah, we have this tweet to speech working with the help of the same system as we built before, like TTS, and also with the help of bright data that is allowing us to scrape the data from Twitter. Amazing. That's a nice use case. Git status, git. Oh, maybe before I do git status, git commit, I'm going to look into the API, tweet API, because here I have some hard-coded authorization tokens. What I'm going to do is I'm going to copy it and I'm going to move it to the environment variables, saying bright data API key equal to this one. I'm going to copy the name and I'm going to go back to this API. And I'm going to replace this one using a template string with a dynamic process.env.brightData key. And I will do the same for the second one for this authorization. Perfect. Because the get with data can throw an error if the scraping failed, or maybe if after all the attempts probably we can do it in a try catch. If something happens to respond with an error. And I will try it again just to double check and make sure that it still works. I can take another tweet. I can go here, convert to speech. Okay, the text is here, the audio is here, and everything is working perfectly. Tweet to speech. Perfect. Some ways that you can improve this one would be to add loading states and error messages on the UI. Highly encourage that. And if you're implementing this in a production application, probably you're using TanStack query to handle like loading and error states. I encourage you to do that. If not, you can do that manually as well. But in my case, I do not have like indication of that there is a loading state. So you can improve on that easily. What I want to do is maybe to improve like how we render the tweet here in the components. Let's say dummy tweet.tsx. I want to use AI to generate a dummy tweet. Because we know what's going to be the data structure. It's going to be something like this. Let's do like this. Oh, come on. This is already a little bit optional, but I would like to see what's going to happen. Render a tweet based on the tweet prop that you will receive. Here is what data will be available. I pasted it and let's do enter. Let's see how it's going to look like. It defined the type, show something there. I can accept it, and I can try to go back in my API, not in the API, in the tweet to speech. And here, instead of a normal text, I can render a dummy tweet with tweet data. And let's see how this is going to look like. I don't know, let's see. Let's go with a post by Adam. Convert. How it's going to look like. I didn't even look at the generated code. It didn't work. Image must be a function. What? Oh, that's totally not React Native. Use React Native components and React Native style objects. That's totally not what I wanted. Let's do accept and see if now it's going to work. Here it is. It even has like images, right? And at the end here, we see the player.
Initial 3 days is YouTube trying to find an audience for your content.
Look what else we could do. I could show the results in a new tab or something like that. I can do, or maybe that's good. And it would be cool also to highlight, right?
If it can't find distribution,
to highlight the work that we're currently doing, similar to how we did it previously. So for example, in the tweet to speech, I still have a feeling that I want to do, but it's going to complicate a little bit stuff here with different pages. if tweet data show the dummy tweet, and only in other cases show okay, there is no way now to go back, but it shows like a much cleaner way. Now in the audio player, I can do here on playback position, and I can store the playback position. Playback position. Set playback position. In the dummy tweet, I can send the playback position, and in the dummy tweet, yeah, maybe, yeah, the tweet doesn't have words, but what can I do there? Because I don't want to show the text-to-speech words, or maybe I do. I mean, if it matches, but it's not gonna work. Wait a second, it's not gonna work. It's not gonna work to highlight it, just because in the text-to-speech we do not have that one. We do not have words with timings. With text-to-speech we're gonna have to run again on the audio, the generated audio file, the audio to speech to get the positions. In the text to speech, the result yeah. But anyway, we have it pretty cool right now. That's not very good. It doesn't need anything.
Initial 3 days is YouTube trying to find an audience for your content. If it
Perfect. That's another example that you can use to build amazing text-to-speech, speech-to-text applications using this ElevenLabs. Another thing that I highly encourage you to test it out is their possibility to clone voices. There is voices that you can clone. And by the way, you can choose any voice in your in your text-to-speech as well by simply changing the ID in the API text-to-speech by changing this ID to another voice. And you can also allow the user to pick voices, or you can create your own voice. Voice changer, I don't know where it is. Voice native. but you can do that. All right, I think we're gonna stop here. That is an amazing result, and I hope you are going to use it in your application. And if you do, let me know, send me a message or tweet and tag me on social medias and show me where you have used these systems and what applications you are building. I also cannot wait to use these systems in my apps and to try to build some applications with voice, with audio, maybe some video editing tools that can add auto captions. Like, it already generated so many ideas for me that, yeah, cannot wait to get started and code them to launch them. If you enjoy this one, make sure to subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell to be notified when we'll publish new videos. Thank you very much, Bright Data, for sponsoring this video. You are amazing. And if you want to learn React Native more in depth, if you need more resources, there is React Native Mastery, the course that I've been working on for the past years that will teach you everything when it comes to React Native Expo and the other tools that are required in your tool set as a mobile developer. Here I'm talking about ZooStand, Reanimated, Gesture Handler, Tanstack Query, Expo Router, and so on. Everything is focused around 7 different projects, so you learn by building amazing applications that you can add to your portfolio. If you're interested, you just go to notjust.dev/React Native Mastery and join there. Thank you very much, everyone. I will see you later. And if you're coming to app.js, hit me up because I'm going to be at app.js, I think in 2 weeks. Cannot wait for that as well. All right. Thank you very much and have a nice day. Bye-bye.